Welcome to Focus on the Five, conversations with Baldwin County business leaders and entrepreneurs, brought to you by Josh Knoll of Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. And now, Josh Knoll.
Hi everyone, welcome to Focus on the Five, conversations with Baldwin County, Alabama area entrepreneurs and business leaders. I'm your host, Josh Knoll of Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. We're coming to you today from the studios of WABF 1480, located here in beautiful downtown Fairhope, Alabama. My guest today, along with his wife, have been planning and dreaming of opening a restaurant for 10 years. But it took a hurricane excavation and a bunch of no vacancy signs for them to find their perfect landing spot. So today we're going to get to talk about that journey to Fairhope, as well as their incredible food that you can find here in downtown. So with all that said, please welcome my guest, Jon Lindeman of It's All Greek to Me. Jon, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
All right.
And we truly appreciate this opportunity to be with you.
Well, thank you for joining us. All right, so Jon, we're gonna eventually dive into how you landed in Fairhope, but first, for the listeners that are not familiar with your restaurant, would you please describe It's All Greek to Me?
It's All Greek to Me is a traditional Greek taverna, the kind that you might find if you were on one of the islands in the Greek Isles. Traditional Greek fare, Greek music, designed and outfitted with all sorts of Greek memorabilia. The whole idea is to give people the sensation of being on the islands if they haven't been there, and for those that have, give them a remembrance of what they've previously enjoyed.
Okay. All right, so I have not been to any Greek Isles, right? I've done good to make it to Mexico, to Cancun, right? So you're trying to recreate this this feeling, but I don't think you're from Greece, right?
Well,
so where did this come from?
As I tell people, I'm from northern Greece.
Okay.
I'm from Ireland, England, Germany.
That's way north.
Yeah, but I married well. I married exceptionally well, and I'm blessed to be married to a first-generation Greek-Canadian girl,
okay,
who is now an American citizen. And I married into an amazing family. I have the world's best in-laws, and my wife's and my business partner is my brother-in-law.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
Okay. Now your wife's name is Effie.
Effie.
Right,
And my
so-
brother-in-law's name is Jerry.
All right, so it's the three of you all there.
Yes, it is.
Right. So your wife she's from Greece/Canada background.
Correct.
Was she serve as the inspiration for the food, or did she learn from her family? Where did the ideas for the food come?
Well, the food that we prepare is based on my wife's grandmother's and great-grandmother's recipes.
Now we're talking.
Yep. And one of the great things is neither of them ever came to the United States.
Okay.
So as a consequence, they were never affected by American dining sensibilities.
All right.
And what that means, in short, is that when we're at the house on the island in Greece, the food that we serve you is what's on our table.
Oh, wow. So not, I don't want to say, hopefully it's not a bad word, but not diluted. Hasn't been Americanized.
No, it is not
Right.
American. This is literally what, if you were to come to our house, well, my in-laws' house on the island, this is what you'd find on the table.
All right, well, let's talk about some of that food, because I had lunch there today.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Oh my gosh, it was incredible. And I can't pronounce what I ate.
Pasticcio.
Okay, so what is pasticcio?
Pasticcio is what the Italians borrowed and called lasagna.
Okay.
And the more time you spend with Greeks, the more you realize that they created the alphabet, they created math, they created politics, and of course they created food.
Right.
And they'll also tell you that the Italians originally came from Etruscans who were Greek settlers, and that eventually they became the Romans, and now that's what Italy is.
Oh, there you go.
And so the Greeks will tell you that the Italians borrowed pasticcio and created lasagna.
Well, is that one of your fan favorites, or do y'all have any particular favorites?
It is a popular one. When people ask me what's my favorite, my response usually is that's like selecting between my two children. I can't. So I ask them, what is it they like? What do you enjoy? And then I do what I can to make sure that I tailor any recommendation to their dining preferences. And the great part about a typical Greek taverna menu is there are so many different options. If you're a vegetarian, we have vegetarian options. We have vegan options. We have, if you are on the Atkins diet and there are no carbohydrates in your diet, we have plates for you. If you like comfort food, there's any one of a number of things on our menu that are definitely comfort food.
I love it. Well, so you have children. I know we're going to circle back around to that, but you said it's like picking between your children, right?
Correct.
So I hope it's okay I say that I tell my 3 children, I love all you equally, but sometimes I like you a little less than each other.
Absolutely.
Is that fair?
Absolutely.
All right, so your wife is from Greece, and you are from northern Greece, which is the first time I've ever heard Ireland described that way. My history is Scottish-Irish, so that's kind of neat. How, what is your background, and how did you meet your wife?
Well, my wife and I met December 4th, 2002, as a result of having found each other on Match.com.
Okay.
And when we finally met after about 2.5 weeks of emails and telephone conversations, I knew within about 15 seconds that I was going to marry her.
Oh, wow.
In fact, at the time, I was house sitting for my parents, and they just happened to be home. And I came home that night after the date, which started at 6 o'clock and got done at about 2:30 in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And my mom actually was home, and of course I was almost 40, so of course my mother being Irish, she had to wait up for me to come home. And I walked in the door and she says, well, did you have a good time? I said, yeah, I just met the next Mrs. Lindeman.
All right.
I knew it.
Yeah. Well, did you? Okay, so I kind of had that same feeling, but I didn't know if she would say yes.
Well,
was it mutual from the beginning?
My wife will tell you that she wasn't prepared to have a boyfriend at the time. And that she didn't call me boyfriend even 2.5 months later after I asked her to marry me.
Right.
But I'm pretty certain that we were headed in the right direction
That's
from the
awesome.
beginning.
All right, when you met your wife, what was your background? What were you doing?
At that point in time, I was a practicing attorney.
Okay.
And my wife was very involved in as a professional headhunter.
In particular industry, or was
she worked for an agency that worked with a number of different employers to find executives.
Okay. The reason I asked, I was just wondering if maybe that was where some of the restaurant business side came from.
Well, the restaurant business side came from, to a certain extent, my father-in-law,
okay,
who's had more than 6 restaurants. And my wife and my brother-in-law and I, throughout the years, in our formative years, had worked in restaurants.
Were they all Greek-related restaurants?
Mine were franchise-based restaurants. My brother-in-law, I believe, worked in some Greek-related restaurants, and I don't believe my wife did. But we all had different kind of experience in the restaurant business. And for more than a decade before we found Fairhope in September 2017.
Oh yeah, we're going to get to that story.
We had talked about doing a restaurant. And over that same decade, we had traveled the world.
Okay.
The only places we haven't been is Antarctica and Australia. And we've gone to lots of different restaurants and lots of different places. And we'd been to all those different places, and we'd never found the right place to do the restaurant.
Right town, right atmosphere.
Right town, right atmosphere with the right folks that would appreciate it. And just the place where we felt doing and fulfilling our dream would be something that community would want to be able to participate in.
Well, all right, let's talk about that. So I don't want to quite get into what you did once you got here, but I'd like to talk about what got you here. What's the story behind, how'd y'all end up in Fairhope?
Well, September 2017, some of you all may remember, there was a little storm visiting South Florida called Hurricane Irma. And 24 hours in advance of landfall, which is supposed to happen exactly 1 mile from our front door.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, yeah. The storm was expected to be a sustained Category 5 in the eye wall, and the eye wall was supposed to come ashore 1 mile from our front door. And we decided that discretion being the better part of valor, we would do our Judd Clampett maneuver, load the family up and get out of town. So we loaded up the cats, the 2 cats, the dog, the 2 kids, and ourselves in our 2 cars, and we jumped in and we started heading out of South Florida along with 21 million of our closest friends and family Also fleeing the entire state of Florida.
So, all right, so you're traveling from Miami up Florida. What I can't even imagine. What did you hit on the journey as far as traffic and places to stay?
Well, fortunately, we didn't hit any of the cars in front of us. But then again, when you're going 15 miles an hour, it's kind of hard to hit one of the cars in front of you. So the drive from Miami to Tallahassee is a 7-hour drive.
Okay.
It took us 14 hours just to get to Tallahassee. And we get there at about 10 o'clock at night. And remember, we got 2 cats, a dog, a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old.
Yeah, so they're younger children. It wasn't like
they weren't
not
teenagers.
teenagers.
No.
Right.
And we figured at 10 o'clock at night it might be a good time to find some place to stay.
Right.
And so we pull into a random parking lot in Tallahassee, and we can't find any place in Tallahassee. And we can't find any place in Panama City or Panama City Beach.
Right.
And then we tried Pensacola and every place in between, and there were no inns with anything available. So my wife asked me, what's next? And I said, Mobile. I said, but in all my experiences going through that area, I've stopped at Mobile for gasoline on my way to New Orleans.
Right.
I said, so let's go to New Orleans.
Right.
I thought that was a brilliant suggestion.
Well, you're a food guy, so
I'm a food guy.
Right, that was probably pretty exciting.
I'd been to New Orleans many times, and my wife didn't have much experience with New Orleans, and I thought to myself,
here we go.
Here we go. And 10 minutes later, the window went down on her car, and she looks at me and she says, what's a Fairhope?
Not where is Fairhope?
No, what's a Fairhope?
What's a Fairhope?
And so that was my first clue I wasn't going to spend a week in New Orleans.
All right, so on that note, I want to take a quick station identification break, and when we come back, let's talk about what happened once you landed here.
Excellent.
All right. For those of you just joining us, this is Focus on the 5 Conversations with Baldwin County, Alabama entrepreneurs and business leaders. I'm your host, Josh Knoll, and I'm joined today by Mr. Jon Lindeman of It's All Greek to Me. So, you land in Fairhope.
We landed in Fairhope.
You find a place in Mobile to stay that would take the
Actually, so my wife Googled pet-friendly, family-friendly Mobile, and up popped this place called Fairhope. And she found a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom room that would take the 2 cats and the dog, and yes, also the children. And the clincher was it was $125 a night.
Okay, yeah.
So
from Miami, that probably just seemed like, are you sure you don't have your numbers right?
Yeah, well, that was the first thing I did.
Yeah,
you not 225?
Right.
You sure that this is the place we want to take our kids to?
Is this a Motel 2?
Yeah, really. And at that point, I just couldn't manufacture an argument for $300 a night in New Orleans, no matter how hard I tried in my own mind. So I figured we're going to be going to Fairhope, whatever a Fairhope was. It took us 9.5 hours to drive from Tallahassee to Fairhope.
And for those listeners not familiar with the area, that's normally a
4-hour drive.
Right. Yeah, 4.5 was traffic typically.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
But we get here at about 6:30 in the morning, Fairhope time, after 23.5 hours of nonstop driving.
Goodness.
And we pass out in the room. We wake up later that afternoon, and we're hungry, famished. And there was a roster of restaurants, and there was a map of downtown, neither of which meant a thing to us.
Right.
Because what's a Fairhope?
Right.
And we get the kids together, and we jump in the car, and we start driving in, and we're driving down North Section Street. And we haven't even gotten to Fairhope Avenue. And my wife turns and she looks at me and she says, we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. And then we had randomly selected some place called Our Bistro to go and eat. We didn't know better.
Right.
And we went and we had lunch at Our Bistro. And showing my ignorance, I was very surprised to find that there wasn't anything fried, and there were no peas with black eyes, and there was nothing colored or greeny like on the menu. And the food was just phenomenal. And then for dinner, we went to Sage, the Lebanese restaurant right across the street, and we were amazed at some of the best Lebanese food we've ever had. And during the day, we just spent the time walking around, getting familiar, and falling in love.
Right.
And we're looking in the windows of the real estate shops, and we're amazed at how much house you can buy on how much land for how little money, because we're from Miami.
From Miami, right, yeah.
And part of our business back in Miami is real estate. So we figure we got a few days, let's go look at some real estate. Maybe we can buy a house that needs to be gentrified, and we can make money out of this being chased out of town.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, short story long, 4 days later we bought a house. Then 2 days later, after doing all the research to find out what Lower Alabama had to offer us, we signed the lease for our restaurant that we opened up and are now inviting you all to come to.
So, 6 days in Fairhope. How long had you, let's reiterate this, how long had you been planning that restaurant?
For a decade or more at that point.
Right. And you were just missing one final piece of the ingredient. Is that fair to say?
Well, 3.
Okay.
Location,
Right.
location, location.
I love it. And it took you just a few days in Fairhope.
Not even really a few days. We were smitten from the get-go.
Well, and we have, as Lori knows, we've done a pretty decent job with the show, and so we've got people watching and listening that have never been to Fairhope, but I think they're
missing out.
Yeah, it's really my friends. It's like, it's like if you developed a Hollywood set of what is the perfect little town, and then you set it on a bay, and then you gave it warm weather, and then you gave it nice people, and then you gave it artists and restaurants. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, and antique shops.
Yeah.
And a bustling downtown that's 20 minutes away with Mobile and everything that's happening.
Without being snobbish, without some of the stuff you deal with some of the other tourist towns.
So that was one of the most amazing things to us as we were walking around on that Saturday and then the next day on the Sunday was the warm, inviting, receptive, just delightful people in this town.
I agree. And I would think, hopefully you agree with what I'm about to say, but one of the things that all the entrepreneurs I have come on that are here in Fairhope or on the Eastern Shore, that was a pleasant surprise to us, was it's a very supportive of people trying new things, of the entrepreneurial mindset. And like I've told people, I've lived other places. That's not necessarily true.
No, it isn't necessarily true.
So I've
lived other places too, so
right.
Yeah.
And I would think, you've probably had a lot of people pulling for you that maybe surprised you a little bit.
Well, getting the feeling that we got when we first were here, we're not terribly surprised.
Right.
How warm and receptive and just wonderful the folks are here. In fact, everything we had hoped would be the case has been the case.
Has been a little better.
Fairhope has been very generous and continues to be that way to us, and we are very blessed.
Well,
and so after that, we immediately went home after that week, and we told our brother-in-law about what we had found and that we wanted to do the restaurant finally. And he decided he'd become a partner with us.
Did he want to come see Fairhope first, or he just
Oh,
trusted?
absolutely.
Did he? Okay.
He's skeptical.
Sure.
So he wanted to find out whether or not we were selling him a bill of goods or not.
Yeah, hurricane brain or something.
Well, hurricane brain, plus we were, all of us were going to uproot from Miami and travel.
Well, and that's one thing,
parts unknown.
When you and I talked earlier, that's one thing that I think you made really clear is, how many years had you been in Miami?
So my family moved to Miami in 1973.
Right.
So of the past 46 years, I've lived 42 of them.
And your wife also had very deep roots.
And my wife had been in Miami since about 1998,
right.
1997, so for 20 plus years herself. So leaving Miami wasn't anything we planned on or thought of until we were just completely enamored. And it's not just Fairhope, which in and of itself would be enough, but it's Fairhope and it's Gulf Shores and it's all the surrounding communities and it's the convenience of Mobile and Pensacola, and there's just, it's vibrant and it's active and it's lively, and there's just so much more than anybody that's not from here can ever imagine.
I agree. Well, did you feel like you were getting in on something special?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, it was self-evident.
Right.
I mean, you go in and you talk to the shop owners, you go in and you go into the restaurants in the downtown Fairhope core area, and you meet, they're all owned, for the most part, by entrepreneurs.
Right.
And they're all committed to the success of their restaurant, obviously, but they're also committed to the success of Fairhope.
That's right.
Because they came and they invested their time and their heart and their sweat and their money into Fairhope to make Fairhope even better.
Right. Yeah, like you and I said, not change fundamentally.
Of course not.
Just make it better.
Absolutely.
Just bring those ideas in and that passion.
Absolutely.
So speaking of those ideas, does the restaurant that you have opened, did it match the business plan that you had developed over those 10 years?
In many ways, it's exceeded it.
All right.
It's just my wife's been an entrepreneur for the better part of 20 years. I've been an entrepreneur for the better part of a decade.
All right.
And we're having more fun now and working as many hours or more than we ever did in our entire lives.
Well, as a practicing attorney, I mean, what, if you don't mind me asking, what gave you the confidence you could pull off a restaurant?
Maybe not being smart enough to know we might fail. But failure just simply isn't an option to us.
Right.
And we're going to do everything we can every day to invite folks in and experience the opportunity to have a chance to enjoy a different kind of experience than what they're able to get anywhere locally.
We do have, I know this for a fact, we got people, restaurant entrepreneurs, both in the business and aspiring, and they always want me to ask these questions, because they're paying attention, your journey, their journey. Was there anything that caught you off guard?
Well, I mean, nothing that you don't already suspect might be an issue or may have heard might be an issue. Just properly managing contractors, right, to do your build out, properly interacting with the governmental agencies to make sure that you're on time for inspections. Right. And the single most important thing that any entrepreneur that's going to have employees has to do is make good hires.
Right.
And be prepared to do what's necessary to make sure that those folks are good hires and continue to be.
Right. Very well said.
Because, anybody that goes into any business that's going to have a client or a guest, if you're not doing what it takes to reasonably make those people happy, you're not going to be in business long.
No, you're not going to make it long, especially in today's society where information is shared so freely.
Absolutely.
All right, what do you all host large groups?
We absolutely do. We have the capacity to seat up to about 100 people between indoor and outdoor seating. We've had groups of 30 or more at the restaurant already. We've already catered events at Thomas Hospital, and we're catering events for people that are members of the Greek Church, for organizations affiliated with the Greek Church. So we are capable of handling almost any catering need and almost any group size.
Perfect. Well, I've had lunch there. I sad to admit I haven't had dinner yet. I'm going to bring my wife for that. But can you talk a little bit about your lunch and dinner options, some of the things somebody might walk into?
Certainly. So as I mentioned at the top of our conversation, mm-hmm, we have a very diversified menu. We have a handful of seafood dishes, from fish to shrimp to calamari. We do our calamari so fresh that we get comments virtually every time we serve it about it being the freshest calamari they've ever eaten.
I wish I'd known that. Oh man, I could eat some calamari. Okay. I'll have that for dinner when we come.
And then, some of our fun stuff. We have what we call vampire repellent, which is the tzatziki sauce.
Hold on, vampire repellent?
Vampire repellent.
Is that a Greek thing, or is that just having some fun?
We're just having some fun.
All right.
Basically, the Greek yogurt and garlic sauce. And then we have one of our favorite things is our flaming cheese, where we set the cheese on fire. Awesome. And present it to you. And then for our entrees, you name it. We have vegetarian dishes, we have vegan dishes, we have, for lack of a better way of explaining it, casseroles, like the pasticcio you had today. Right. And then we have another one, Moussaka, which many folks that have any familiarity with Greek food are familiar with. And we make ours a little special so that your eggplant's going to be creamy and yummy and not bitter or have any bite to it whatsoever. And then we have our meat platters, where you can just go at it until you're almost into a food coma.
Right.
And that doesn't even get to our desserts.
Right.
So like our desserts, normally they'd use walnuts because that's the tradition. We use locally sourced Baldwin County pecans to make our baklava and to make our desserts.
Love it.
In fact, some of our meats that we use are also locally sourced Lower Alabama meats, so that we're giving back as much as we can to the community where we can, based upon what it is that we produce.
Right. And the cool thing about it, I've had a couple recent guests that the quality ends up being better anyway.
The quality is superb. If it wasn't, we wouldn't use it.
Totally
so
agree.
we get to give back, and in giving back, we also get to give the best quality out to the community we possibly can.
Perfect. Where are you located?
We are located at 108 North Section Street, the brand new development right there on North Section Street, right across from City Hall and the police station. And what our landlord did is he told us he negotiated with the city so that the city's parking lot is available after 5 p.m.
Right.
So everybody knows parking in Fairhope can be a bit of a challenge. But after 5 o'clock, presuming there's no event at City Hall, that parking's available for you.
Just park across the street, walk on over?
Park across the street, walk on over, and come and join us.
Where does someone find more information out about your restaurant?
www, it's all Greek, GRK2, the number 2, me.com.
Very good. How about, you want to say a second time, Lori? Facebook. How about Facebook?
I believe it's all Greek to me, Fairhope.
I believe you're right. And phone number to call if they want to make reservations, or do you all do? There's some ways I'm antiquated.
Oh,
but everybody does it.
And the funny thing is you can call us, and I'm certain that the telephone number is available at the website.
Okay.
And if I told you the telephone number right now, I'd be lying to you, which makes me a horrible restaurant owner.
No.
It may even be on some of our literature.
Well, we got it right here. It is 251-265-3623. So that's 251-265-3623. But in your defense, I'm going to tell you this. I told my son, who is 13 years old, just about a week ago, I said, hey, we need to make reservations somewhere. Can you take care of it? And I thought he was just going to call up, and I was letting him be big boy. And he did it through Open Table.
Well, and we're also available on Open Table.
And we get there, and they have it. I mean, you talk about slick.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like a caveman compared to what he did.
I love Open Table. It's a great way of being able to make a reservation because they know how many tables are available.
Right.
And they can.
They had us all dialed in. Here you go.
Absolutely. Right. And also, you can make reservations through our Facebook page.
Perfect.
And we really encourage people to go to the Facebook page because you get to see reviews and there are folks that have decided they really want to be part of our community.
Right.
And so you can make reservations through the Facebook page.
Plus, I know some on your Facebook page, you can see some of the magazines and articles that y'all been featured in because you've done a fantastic job of being featured in many things like Access Magazine.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate. A lot of people have reached out to us and contacted us and invited us to be involved in their publication.
Right. They've
been very, very generous with their space and with their time and with what they've written about us. So we've been very fortunate.
Yeah, and you're a good interview. What any upcoming events you want to promote?
Father's Day.
All right.
Father's Day. Did I say Father's Day?
Yes, you did.
Father's Day. We haven't posted the event menu, but we will. We usually post that about 1 week in advance. My guess is it will probably feature grilled meats.
That's right.
Because it's Father's Day.
Right.
Not a whole lot of vegetarian dishes, although for those of you that are fathers, we always have vegetarian dishes.
Oh, we're good with that. What's the future hold for It's All Greek to Me in Fairhope?
Well, the future is unlimited for us. Our idea is to take this first restaurant and be able to expand it here in the Lower Alabama, and then just continue to contribute to Lower Alabama by creating more jobs and creating more opportunity for people.
Perfect. Very well said. Anything else you want to add before we wrap her up?
We're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., lunch and dinner, and we'd love to see you.
Perfect.
And a full bar.
Yes.
And a full bar.
Yes. A beautiful full bar.
It is a full bar, but more importantly, we do have Greek wines. And I won't say they're impossible to find, but they're very, very difficult to find because generally they're not available for the general public.
Okay.
And unless you're a Greek restaurant, of which there aren't any in Lower Alabama other than us, there are sandwich shops. There are sandwich and salad shops, but they're not full-service Greek restaurants. We do have the Greek wines. We have Greek beers that we get imported. So you're able to have that full experience because, oddly enough, those Greek wines and beers go remarkably well with Greek food.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
Well, they did start all of this.
They did start all of
They must
this.
have figured
Absolutely.
They had time to figure it out. All right. Well, if you're a regular listener of the show, then you know that we also film our conversation and release it across multiple social media platforms. So, Lori, I'm going to change this up. We need 2 favors from y'all. One, make sure you let Mr. John and Effie know if you heard or saw them on this show, because that's fun. I appreciate if y'all letting them know when you see them. And 2, let me know if you have someone you think would be a good guest, like Mr. John's been. You'll find my contact info at the end of this show. In closing, I want to thank my guest, Mr. Jon Lindeman of It's All Greek to Me here in Fairhope, for joining us today. You did a great job.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
All right, and as well of all you all out there listening to us, I am Josh Knoll of Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. This has been Focus on the 5, and I want you to have a great day, and that is it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Focus on the 5. If you are interested in learning more about Josh Knoll and Gulf Coast Financial Advisors, you can find us at gulfcoastfa.com, call 251-327-2124, email josh.knoll@gulfcoastfa.com, or message us on Facebook. Focus on the 5 is produced by Josh Knoll of Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. Advisory services offered through Investment Advisors, a division of Pro Equities Inc., a registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Pro Equities Inc., a registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA and SIPC. Gulf Coast Financial Advisors is independent of Pro Equities Inc. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Focus on the 5 offers commentary and generalized research, not personalized investment advice. Show content is for informational purposes only and does not constitute a complete description of our investment services or performance. All investments involve risk and unless otherwise stated are not guaranteed. Be sure to consult a tax professional before implementing any investment strategy.